Okay, time to finally show off the AI generated heat map. I'm sticking with heat map for now because it literally looks hot. I guess I kind of designed it like that. But the idea is I had an AI scan satellite imagery superimposed with OpenStreetMap data and traffic data, and I went in and segmented out all of the areas that I thought were great for cycling. Roads that are smooth, roads that are twisty and windy, roads that go past scenic things, go through forest and things like that, to try to make a heat map layer, so to speak, that does a great job of showcasing where you want to cycle and not necessarily where other people have cycled. So I'm assigning a hotter color to those areas that are just more fun to cycle. And it kind of goes like this: the more yellow something is, the more you would want to cycle on that road, and the less yellow it is fading to red and then to just no heat map on it at all is probably not going to be the most fun road. And so here's just a quick look at it. I have a good portion of Wisconsin done. I say that knowing full well I'm going to have to redo it a couple of times because I'm already finding some things that I didn't do correctly. So some retrainings and such are in order. But we can take a look at this road right here. It's actually one of my favorite roads to bike on, and so I thought it was great validation that it picked it up and highlighted it very well. I actually come out here all the time, so it kind of makes sense, and I did not use this as part of the training data, but it's just a nice, smooth, scenic, windy road. See? And it kind of just goes ahead and highlights that in a nice flame yellow, and then it really pops out when you start to zoom out and zoom in. And same thing happens for things like a rail to trail bike trail, and you can see it right here just picking out that rail trail, and it's just in glorious hot yellow. It says bike here, it's going to be a great experience. No cars, lots of other cyclists, it's a good time. I tried to stay away a little bit from suburbia. Now, some people might love maybe just biking through the little local neighborhood, but I'm trying to make something that shows you where you would want to bike as like a vacation, like the best area of the state to bike, not necessarily just a good thing to help plan your local commute. Not saying that you couldn't use it for that, but to each their own. And again, the idea comes back to the fact that something like Strava's heat map will do an excellent job showing you a city and showing you where other people have biked and showing you where things like an industrial park crit has gone ahead and made like a very bright circle. But then we have areas like this, which is one of my favorite areas to bike. It's just an absolutely stunningly beautiful spot, and yet according to them, nobody's really cycled there. And so if somebody sees this, they're not going to be too inclined to come here for cycling. And instead, somebody can come over to my map, and I think I loaded that. Yeah, and they can see very easily that that actually has some of the best roads you can possibly find. And sure enough, if I zoom on in on some of these really bright yellow lines, which is actually just more yellow than any of the roads where I live, all we have are super windy, fun, smooth, scenic, beautiful roads with like literally zero traffic. I mean, I biked out here and I've seen one car every 2 hours before. And it's a bit hilly, sure, but it's got just some of the best pavement, and it's got some of the least traffic and some of the best views that you can possibly find. And yeah, it's kind of like a hidden gem in Wisconsin. In fact, a lot of people in Wisconsin would prefer to go south, and they would actually come a little south of Madison to this Blue Mountain region. And while the Blue Mountain region is probably one of the most popular areas to go cycling in Wisconsin, and that's pretty evidenced by the heat map as well, you can even see that it's not quite getting as high of a yellow score on a lot of the roads. And it's true, I've biked in a whole bunch of different regions of Wisconsin, and while this one is fun and exceptionally hilly, and does have plenty of good sights and windy roads, a lot of these roads are pretty cracked, pretty old, falling apart, and crumbly, and that's definitely something it's going to score against. One of the big reasons I was putting this together is just because I normally make routes by trying to figure out where there isn't traffic, which typically works out super well, but I'm not going to go through and inspect every road to make sure it's also not like cracked and garbagey. And very often I'll make routes that do really good on traffic, but don't do so good on that cracked value. And if I'm not like on a gravel bike, my hands and wrists are suffering. And so that's why I'm really trying to kind of figure out which roads are good to cycle and which roads aren't. Yes, for some reason the algorithm didn't like this road. Oh yeah, it is a bit cracked in places. Maybe there was traffic. I can't tell on this map. And so the idea came that I was going to just give an AI a whole bunch of classified imagery that I went ahead and classified for training data, and then have it train and train and train and see how well it can do. And so just to give kind of an idea about some of the tools and some of the how, I generated a tool over here that actually pulls and mashes together a bunch of data. And so it goes ahead and pulls satellite imagery, OpenStreetMap imagery, and traffic imagery, and it superimposes them on top of each other in order to make nice guidelines for things for the AI to kind of understand. And so you can see here we have a bike lane, well, a trail, and that actually has a nice purple line to help guide the AI knowing, well, that's bike infrastructure. Over here we have a superimposed green line, and that's actually a traffic indicator, and I've trained the AI to know that that's traffic, and you're not going to want to cycle where there's a decent amount of traffic. However, that being said, I did also train the AI to do a decent job picking out the areas on the side of roads, which I'm figuring the name of. Lanes? No. Side lanes? Whatever. The areas where you can still kind of bike on the side of a pretty busy road and still kind of highlight that in there. So this is kind of a little look at the stuff that it's been trained on. And how I do some of the training is I went ahead and made myself an entire tool that I can use in order to train. And so this is the tool. It's a little janky. Yes. That's right, the ferry was coming up as bike infrastructure because I guess it's purple. And so with this tool, I was able to just go ahead and make a brush, and then I can say, hey, either I do want to bike on this, or leave it blank and I don't. In this case, I don't, and leaving it blank and then putting some various X's would actually make it come through as a blank mask and a blank satellite image. And so it's kind of me going through and doing this with literally thousands of tiles, ranking it in various grayscale intensities and such, to give the AI an idea about what it might want to mark as good for biking or bad for biking. And that's kind of the whole way that this went, and I've actually had to build numerous tools in order for this to work. It was kind of a pretty crazy one. Yeah. So this tool has a whole bunch of sliders and options, and this is just to help me style it in various ways, and you can kind of get a look at some of the imagery before styling. And yeah, it just gives lots of settings and such, and then I can use an engine to go ahead and restyle it effectively and try style after style after style. And if I'm being honest, everything you're seeing is from scratch. Like, there were no tools that I had to pay for or buy or anything like that. I'm using PyTorch. I tried all of the models that are good for this type of segmentation and landed on a pretty darn good one, and tuned the training and tuned everything so it runs the RTX 4090 with 99% memory usage and 99% processing usage, and it just burns through it. At the moment, it's trained on about 1,700 images, and then I think it trained for like 8 or 9 hours. It does take a while to chug through a lot of these like tiles, and so I'm not sure yet how long it will take to kind of get through more states. I still need to redo Wisconsin. I'm constantly redoing some of the testing and training and things like that to make it even better. But suffice to say, I do plan on doing this for a lot of the popular areas where there are decent amounts of people and some popular cycling destinations. I would love to say that I'm going to do this for the whole world, maybe a little ambitious, but I'm going to try for like United States, Europe, Australia, and anywhere else in particular any person asks me for, because I can just load up a region and hit a button. In fact, it does actually work with a button. I can, in real time, with this tool, I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. I can just pick a spot that I haven't done. Let's say right here. If I zoom in close enough, I can do it fast enough. And click generate. And then it starts murdering the computer. And it'll take just a minute or two here. It's not representative on how fast it will actually do like an entire state, so don't get like the idea that if it takes a few minutes to do this small spot, that it's going to take like a year to do a whole state. I kind of have it set up in such a way that I can test and validate quickly and easily, but for actually running through and doing large areas, I have entirely different and far more efficient ways to accomplish it. Now it looks like it should be getting there. Oh, that's right. That's not looking at the correct. This is it. It had done it on this screen. I forgot I switched around which layer I'm showing. Yeah. Well, in any case, that's what it just did in real time right now. So that's kind of how it's hooked up and how it's working. And so I have a lot of different ideas and such in mind with this technology. I am not just limited to a heat map that shows the best roads for cycling. I can do better classification for paved versus unpaved. This is an entirely new technique I'm using that's 100% different from before. I can do heat maps that utilize exposure points and wind direction to figure out if it's a north wind, south wind, east wind, whatever, like where along your course you're going to actually get like headwind and tailwind. I can use this heat map in order to create scores, so then you can be creating a route and trying for like a score of 100, and it can keep checking it against how much yellow it's on, essentially, and you can keep trying to build up the score. I mean, I can create automated route generation that uses this. I can use this in the weighting algorithm for my actual routing profiles. I can make a cool route layer that tries to keep that uses geography imagery, um, coastline, lakes, and all of those other things, and exposure in order to determine which roads are probably going to be the coolest temperature-wise to be on, and make like a temperature coded overlay. So there were kind of endless options. In fact, I'm coming up with more like every day. So I can't wait to see how this goes. I think first, obviously, I'm going to make this for Wisconsin and then just throw it up for Wisconsin. And then I'm going to start researching additional states because I still have to kind of figure out, well, what is a good spot for cycling in Utah? What makes it a good spot? I would also love to loop other people in on the training so it's not just my opinion of what a good road is, because there are many other opinions out there, obviously. But this is where I'm going, and I'm curious to see what comes of it. So, if anybody has any ideas or questions or has a particular spot that they want done for some validation, I'm happy to do that. I could even just do a particular spot, throw it to you in a web URL, and you can tell me, well, this road's crap, or this road's pretty solid. You're onto something here. So, keep that in mind. Gosh, that looks like a gorgeous road.